It's a disclaimer. It's a company policy. Okay. Housekeeping as usual. See, one of the key thing what I want to enforce. See, whenever you get a doubt, please immediately type in a message for me. So once I give, after giving a concept, then I'll go through the message. I'm going to clarify a doubt. See, generally what enterprise architecture we call is like a blind man looking at an elephant. It's very abstract. The more we know, the more we don't know. So said that, what I want to say is like, as long as you can able to send me the message immediately, I can able to give a clarification. At the same time, what happens, like it's a plane of thinking. Depending on your domain, depending on your experience, as well as depending on your role, what you're playing, you'll be having a different concept of EA practice. Sometimes it's a learning to me too. So every class when I finish, sometimes I know something which I will be sharing. At the same time, I'll also be learning. Okay. So what we do is, as usual, we revise what we did in the last 2 weeks, just in a high level. And today I'll be going through in depth of A, B, C, D. So again, now I just want to clarify here. Last week, one of the audience came and told why you're not completely covering. Actually, here we have two phases in enterprise architecture. One we call is the foundational to get the concepts, and then we have got the certification phase. That's not a certification you can say. Is the next is advanced phase. So in the foundation phase, I just want to give you the concepts. If I want to go in depth of every steps, you'll get confused. Probably let us see how the things goes. I may organize one more just for the advanced class or for the certification class itself. Okay. So again, all of you must get into your mind the scope of enterprise architecture is people, process, and technology. And because today I'll be covering a lot about that, so that's going to give you a different way of concepts. At the same time, today also we'll be talking about in a high level why technology is so important. Because especially when we talk about phase A is the one which is going to establish the scope for the EA practice or for the ADM cycle. If you are unable to understand what is the capability of the technology, you'll be unable to define what can be done. Let us take a simple example. So after COVID, the industry is really looking at how we can able to provide to our staff a control where they can able to work from the home. The same concept, if it asked like 2-3 years back, it was in the bottom of the company's what I can say is vision or strategy. But moving forward, now every company, they want to give the access to the staff to work remotely. That kind of capability they want to develop. So said that many times, like COVID kind of like a what I can say is a hurdle comes once in a blue moon. But in advance, looking at what's the technology stack, how we can able to utilize is the most important thing. That's why, especially working in this OPEX model, it's very critical to understand what is the technology stack available. So based on that, what kind of capability we can able to provide for the business to enable them to be competitive or to reduce the cost. Again, one of the key thing always I want to emphasize, see, enterprise architecture is the only approach you're able to take holistically. It was not necessary in the past, but it is very critical moving forward. So again, we visit back our 50 years old university. They definitely universities, they want to cut down the cost. At the same time, last week I asked you to think about yourself. You have paid $25,000 to do a master's or some kind of a graduation course, and suddenly the model has changed. You're supposed to go to the college, you can work and take your degree in classes from the home. That is a good news. At the same time, there are some problem, like how to, because you had class interaction, you got assignments, you got group assignments, and you had exams and all. So now everything you must be able to take from the home. Good and bad. The bad news is, last week I told you, one of the key thing happening in the universities, they're saying because of COVID, the universities were not prepared for e-learning or distance learning, so or remote learning. So based on that, we have only pass or fail for this semester. But looking at the industry where it is going, COVID kind of a thing at the initial stage, it was a hurdle because it brought in a lot of hurdles where the industry was not prepared. but now industry is ramping up. So once industry is ramping up and looking and taking the comfort of sitting in the comfort of the home and able to get your studies or your work, so it not only reduces your travel time, plus you can able to effectively utilize your time in a well organized way. At the same time, it contributes for a better environment. Okay, so based on that one, let us try to look at how it's going to help us. Yeah, I've highlighted here one keyword, influential stakeholders. So please remember, EA practice cannot be initiated. You might be having one like state of the art or like one of the unique ideas which can able to generate X amount of revenue for a company. It is not possible or it's not able to be driven by bottom end of the enterprise. So that kind of openness is not there in any environment. It's a very rare thing you'll come across that. So rarely what happens is always it is triggered. EA practice is triggered few drivers. One of the key driver is when there is a major change like COVID. So that kind of an event can trigger. Or there's major regulatory requirements a company need to follow, or company reorg, or might be there is some cutting edge technology coming up. Again, this must be influenced, especially the cutting edge technology and all, it must be influenced by the management, something like from a C-level executive. So that must get into the mind. Okay, so now moving forward, we try to see, we want to develop a system such a way you can able to take the exam as similar environment, how you take your exams in a, in a classroom, in the premises of university. The same kind of an environment need to be created for you to take the class from the home. So let us discuss how to achieve that and what are the capabilities. Okay, see today this conceptual model, last week I showed you. So this becomes very critical for us, especially A-phase works based on the concept of the conceptual model. I told you like we have system in any university is a system of systems. As you can see here, this is a browser. From this browser of UTS, we can able to access, might be a student information, is what is that? You can borrow books from the library. You can able to see his financial obligations. You can able to register for his courses. At the same time, a professor can able to set up classes. He can able to mark the attendance, and he can able to provide, what is that? Conduct classes to the students. So everything can be done with a single portal. So this is again, this one is nothing but you're seeing one browser, but back end of the browser, you got n number of systems tied together. Again, the weakest link can break. So similarly, every system must be really able to give the information in real time as much as possible. That is where we look at the business processes. At the same time, the current applications or the future applications, what is required. At the same time, what kind of data? But ultimately, data is the one which you're looking here, which is in a much more presentable way for the audience based on the role. So just get this concept, I'll be going in depth of it. See, again, last week I told you, I'll be showing you the ISO concept. The whole enterprise architecture is based on this model. This ISO IEEE 42010 plus 2015 combination. So if I show you this one in the first class, you'll run away. You'll be coming to the second class or third class. So the same thing has come out in a different, the same one I will represent in a much more readable manner. Let us discuss first. If you understand this, the whole EA becomes very clear. The system of interest is nothing but your system what you want to achieve. So holistically, if you look at an enterprise, you want to have all the assets, whatever existing in a university, need to be digitized. Need to be digitized means whatever you have, some kind of a manual process, some kind of automated process, some kind of documents, some kind of silo databases, all need to be integrated together. And even some documents in many companies, they got in like some PDF form, that all must be readable form. So that's the first requirement. So once we get that requirement, so next one is, again, we look at the stakeholder. I show one-to-one how it is connected. You'll get an idea of it. So one of the key thing is whenever you want to develop a system, a new initiative, you look at the stakeholders. Again, please remember, especially when you plan in the initial stage, the requirements come from key stakeholders that must go into the mind. Key stakeholders are the one who are going to define what is expected. And at the same time, You're going to look at their concerns. Again, please remember the concerns, what you're looking at the stakeholder is not technology aspect itself. It can be financial, it can be reputation, it can be in terms of how to increase the capacity of the university, how to give a better services. Might be they want to expand the university to other countries too. So it can be any kind of a concern. So yeah, again, one of the key thing, it's a funny thing sometimes I myself will be looking at. See, though everything is driven by technology, but unfortunately, business is driven by the business requirement. What the business want to really achieve? Like ultimately, it is in terms of profit or in terms of what they want to, where they want to be. So generally, if you go and talk to a like a C-level executive of technology, we don't even get a chance to talk to them more than 2-3 minutes. So always you must talk from the conversation from business perspective. Then of course, as an enterprise architect, we need to connect back with the technology, how to realize the business. At the same time, when you talk to an executive, you must try to see from the technology capability, you must abstract it, how the technology capability can be converted into business capability. In that terms, you need to talk to them. Okay, please look at here. So once I got the concern, we have a viewpoint. See, the viewpoint is, you must really understand here, we have a stakeholder. Every stakeholder has got their own viewpoint. Let me explain. For an example, we look at this browser. Well, as you can see here, the same browser is viewed by two people. We take two categories. One category is the public. So in our case, the public is nothing but the students. So from student perspective, what they want to achieve. For them, it must be intuitive, must be the responsive time must be very good. At the same time, they must be able to register for the whatever the classes they want. We just take from that aspect. Again, we take the other other stakeholder. Other stakeholder is the organization itself. Again, we don't go in depth of it. The organization can consist of professors, it can be teaching faculties, it can be administrative faculty. So irrespective of that one, we take as an organization as a stakeholder. We just take from their level what is the expectation. They want to have easy onboarding of a student or a staff. They must be able to easily update any new requirements. Example, especially the syllabus of the in the new era is changing a lot. They must be easy able to update it, and they must be able to support the student as well as the staff. So the architecture viewpoint, you have categorized into two parts. One is the public or the student or the organization. So we're taking the viewpoint from their perspective. So again, please remember, when we talk about the viewpoint, it depends on the context here. In this context, the viewpoint I'm talking is nothing but the business requirement or what is the end result they want to achieve. Holistically, when you take all the things together, it becomes a business requirement. When you look at the system, sometimes some things can be common both with the public as well as the organization. Sometimes it can be specific. We group together. So based on that group, we're going to define what kind of architecture is required for us. You can see here. So this architecture viewpoint enables us to require the architecture viewpoint. From there, we're going to define what kind of architecture. Again, please remember this architecture is nothing but n number of systems will be there. N number of systems means like this architecture can consist of, example, for a university, a student management system. It can consist of a learning management system. It can consist of a financial management system. So there can be n number of systems, a payroll system. So it can, so everything comes under the umbrella of an architecture. And very important thing, just 10, 20 years back, systems can work in isolation. But especially, as you can see, working from home or working remotely, it is critical for the systems to be connected in real time to get the information on your fingertips. So hope everybody understood this concept, because phase A, henceforth all the phases depends on this concept for you to understand. Unfortunately, many people don't discuss about this. They just talk about what is the phases in ADM. No, this is the underlying concept behind that. Any questions till now? Is open for you. Anything you can ask me. Okay, no problem. Then I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so last week we discussed about the P phase, just a high level. In the P phase, we got two requirements. One is to determine the architecture capability that is expected by the company or by the enterprise which they want to go for a EA practice. And next we discuss about how to establish the capability for the enterprise, what the enterprise is expecting. So we're going to make initial high level assessment, the maturity, plus the target. Then we define based on the company's objective, what kind of resources we need, what kind of org structure need to be done. At the same time, we define the principles. Then we identified, like, first of all, when you do any kind of an enterprise architecture, because EA requires setting up a whole different department. The moment, especially thinking of COVID, companies are downsizing. So at this time, if we say we want to set up a EA practice to build a new team with a new org, so you can imagine what are the hurdles. But at the same time, it's a selling point. The reason is, I take this COVID as an example. Last week I attended, in fact, I told you guys last week. Last week I attended the Open Group conference, the Digital First. So the whole conversation for the 3 days conference was, all this time EA was in the back end because EA will be dormant in some companies. Henceforth, it will be very prominent. Why? Because moving forward, what happens is we're going to look at really, the systems need to be working seamlessly across an enterprise to get real-time information. There must be a team, a department which can able to see from the top level, from end to end. So for that one, we go define the enterprise. Again, as I told you, enterprise can be core. You're supporting enterprises plus your organizations, which is going to help you in defining the standards. Then we told the key drivers from the context of the enterprise. Then requirements architectural work is nothing but some of you come from project management. Say something like telling a company to kick off a project. There'll be some budget. So okay, is something like a project like a charter. A project can be started. Again, here please remember, we got various budgets. In P phase, the budget what we talk is only for setting up the EA practice. Then we define the principles, what is required. Then we define what kind of framework. So again, please remember, TOGAF is a descriptive framework. And any company before TOGAF, they have frameworks for project, for maintenance, for BAU as usual, or for requirements gathering, or for selecting a project. So we're going to work together with them. And finally, we're going to look at the maturity we must evaluate, because that is the one which is going to give us what kind of org we need to set up for the EA practice, and what kind of skills we need to build for the team. At the same time, what kind of processes, if a company existing capability need to be revisited. So now we come to the phase A. So now the today one, I'll be discussing in much more depth of it. Okay, let us take the case study of our university. So I told, because I told you must imagine yourself, you have paid $25,000, you're taking the class. So what is the expectation? Because one of the main reason we don't work in isolation now, because your degree, what you take, if you go to some other country, it must be valid. And especially nowadays, like, I don't know how many of you are taking courses from Coursera and all. Some courses are absolutely free. It's really good. I'm not joking. It's such a beautiful courses given by Harvard, Cambridge, and all. At the same time, taking a degree in a reputed university, spending 25 to 30 or 40K, what is the value? So we must think in that aspect. So every university has got a rating. So how to ensure the systems we are going to build has got that kind of a capability and that kind of a reputation for the university is going to give. So again, aspirational vision. Aspiration means something, it's not a reality, like a dream. This is what we want to achieve. Then again, one of the key thing is always, it must deliver the business value. Okay. Last time I told you, TOGAF is a document-based framework. In the sense, it does not give you like cutting-edge software to work. It's a verbose, means that every phase is going to give you a number of documentations. But there are some key documentations to be considered. In P phase, we call request for architectural work. We call it a raw document. So that is the one which kicks off phase A. Just to give one more indicator, some companies where I have worked, They call us to come and set up the EA practice. We go look at the company's current capability, the budget, plus what they want to achieve in the future. We set up all the standards and we give them this is the budget you require henceforth to operate. And some companies, what happens is they take the proposal what we give them. Sometimes they shelve it off. They say, okay, we'll do it. This I come across few times. In Mongolia, we did a project when the WHO gave the funding for them. Then the government changed. So the government told, no, we don't want to go on this practice. We'll do something else. Again, EA practice has got so much of different models. So they went for a different approach. Same thing happened to assignments in Australia too. I don't want to mention the names here. So same thing happened. So that's why what I want to say, by the time you set up, you got the request for architectural work. That is the key document to kick off the A phase. There can be 1 month, can be 6 months, can be few years between the gap. So that's what you must get into the mind. Okay, so the ultimate goal of A phase is, see in P phase, we develop the raw document or request for architectural work. In A phase, we're going to develop the statement of architectural work. That is the end result. So the ultimate goal of A phase is you must come out with a high level scope. At the same time, you must be able to come out with what you must get the approval. So once you get the approval, we got some kind of KPIs and we got some kind of a high level budget, what is expected. Okay. Let us say you take the requirement of the university, the dream university. Have you come across this before? I want to get involved, guys. Please type in a message. Have you come across the terminology what I'm showing you here? See, it's not, you're having a new system which is having just an online, say, example, I'm doing this, conducting this course. I cannot see you, neither you can see me because I'm disabled. But even if I can see you, I didn't really are observing, you're browsing something, we don't know. And especially you're taking your exams, we don't know what you're doing. So one is augmented reality, monitor and control, eye tracking, view students in real time, in the students' screens in real time. Then what are the applications and internet you're going to use is very critical. Do you know why this is very critical? Guys, come on, be interactive. System requirement, that is good. Brian came system requirement. So one of the main thing, I think of especially the students working from the home. It can be adults or it can be like secondary or primary school students. Definitely the teacher need to have a complete control. We don't otherwise what they're browsing. And real-time audio monitoring and multi-device friendly, of course, that is one requirement. And the key thing, what I realized is when I went through what is the requirement, eye tracking is a very important thing. Data leaks, that's very good. I got from Subhash data leaks, that's good. Anything else, guys? Internet security is a very important thing. I know what happened in New York. They abandoned Zoom because some people are able to log in and show some other content for the students. Hack the systems on the way, this one. Of course, ease of use is a common thing. Mainly, when I went to the requirements, this is what I really liked. Eye tracking and real-time audio monitoring, control over the complete system, plus the view the student screen in real time. If anything else might be more, yeah. Yes, user-friendly graphical user interface, that's very good. Very good of FAQ covering, data leaks. Yes, guys. Anything else? Okay, so this is aspirational vision. Please remember, this is just the high level, but as we go across, there might be much more. And especially nowadays, this augmented reality is really taking a big hit. So that in fact I not put in here. Okay, next we see, this is the aspirational vision. So see any vision, there is some constraints. One is it can be functional, it can be non-functional, then it can be standards what need to follow, because especially when you're developing a system for a reputed university, there are international standards. As you know, every university has got a rating. You guys are aware of it? every university in the world, they got a rating. Can anyone mention what is the rating of any Austrian university which you have come across? I'm just curious because this, as an architect or as a, what I can say is, especially thinking in enterprise level, this kind of information you must be knowing. If you don't know, nothing to worry. I can know from now onwards. Okay, UTS less than 100. Okay, David is telling 30s. Okay, it's very sad to tell. Austin universities might be 1 or 2 less than 50. Only 1 or 2, not much. All are more than 100, 150. Somehow the ranking, they are not in that. There's so many other aspects. You see top 50, yes. You see University of New South Wales and ACU, ANU, sorry, ANU, and Wollongong. Some are in a very high ranking. That's good, guys. Yeah. See, based on this ranking, your admission, your ATAR will go up. At the same time, the course fee will go up. Okay, that's good. Okay, so you must look at the standards, compliances, plus time and cost. I just take some high-level requirements. Okay. Now let us look how we're going to solve the problem. See, generally, what happens is when we do an EA practice, one of the key thing is the companies, when the organization-wide vision can be defined in a company. It can be well structured. Sometimes it might not be there also. So let us take as 2 aspects. See, first of all, we think nothing exists. So might be we may need to create from ground zero, because some might be very outdated. We must need to relook at what is the company's vision or mission and what is the strategies, what they want to achieve. That's one thing. And the second thing is, we expect one of the key things of the architecture vision is, see, as I told you, in P phase, we have a budget to establish a practice. But in A phase, we're going to define a vision. See, if you take the previous example, this is the vision we took. We want to have the state-of-the-art system with all the high-level requirements. So the main reason our objective is, so the students, the henceforth, because of a pandemic, this is the way the future students will be working. So this is the way, nowadays there's a limitation on the number of students who can able to come into university, depending on the size of the classroom. With e-learning, there's no, requirements at all. So you can have a number of students in a classroom. So it's good for the university because it's volume based. At the same time, for volume based, you must be having some kind of a standards. It'll be giving the same kind of a value for the student and same kind of stringent standards for him to qualify for this degree. So on that basis, when you come across, so you must be able to come out with in the A phase, we're going to come out with a high level vision. At the same time, we're going to identify what are the key benefits. Then again, you're going to say how it's going to meet the strategic objective of the enterprise by itself. Then finally, see, if you think of who are the stakeholders immediately affected, especially in the university, it can be the academic staff, the chancellor, the vice chancellor, the financial officer, the CFO. Because for them, it's the one of the key thing is students are not coming to the university, especially countries like Australia, New Zealand, or UK, or US. They depend mainly on overseas student. Suddenly, when COVID kind of a thing which comes and which may go for months or years, their main source of income is gone. So for the next step, if they want to give the same kind of an ability for a mass across the world, so it's a key selling point for them. At the same time, whoever defines at this phase, they must be having a clear understanding of the technologies, because technology is the key thing which can able to give this kind of a capability. But at the same time, as I told you earlier, we cannot talk about the technology to the key state, to the executive committee and convince them. We must talk only in terms of business capability, how it can be achieved. Eye tracking, we can able to monitor, we can able to have the same kind of a simulation where we have in an actual classroom. Okay. See, as I told you earlier, some companies got a well-defined vision. If they have got a well-defined, it can be from department-wise or organizational-wise. What is the scope of a EA in phase A is, you're going to first of all understand and try to connect back to the existing companies vision or strategy, if it exists. If it does not exist, we need to create. Or sometimes it's not possible to create, at least high level, we must just define it. Okay, just before I go, how many of you have seen in your company the mission, vision, and goals well documented? Have you seen in your company? Yes, I got David. Yes. Anyone, please? I got X number of audience here. Okay, the reason why I'm asking you, many companies they will be having is quite outdated, and at the same time, many companies generally they don't have. That's the reason I'm telling you. Okay, have you come across business motivation model? Any one of you have come across business motivation model? BMM. Okay, I'll be conducting one of the classes on BMM. I'll tell you what is the reason behind it. Business motivation model is the one which clearly defines how to define a company's vision and mission, how to realize it by defining the goals and objectives. So based on the business motivation model, in TOGAF we got an Archimate, we got a motivation model that is derived from the BMM. Business motivation model is from the OMG group. So it's a standard practice. I'll take one of the classes, I'll inform you. In fact, today I want to take that class, but that will take at least 1 to 2 hours by itself. Okay, so now we know the approach. So once we know the approach, because unless until we really identify, because one of the key things many EA projects fail, because what happens is some key stakeholder will initiate a project, but whatever the project, the aspiration, vision, what they have got, they never connect back to the organizational wide strategy or vision. So what happens till the executive is there, is influence or some budget, the project will thrive. Afterwards, it gets abandoned. See, whatever the project we do, henceforth, if it's able to get connected back to the organization's perspective, that's where you get the blessings for moving forward. So that's the one of the key thing. Either you're going to connect back any of the initiative to the existing strategy or the vision. If it is not there, you need to create one and provide a hook for that. Okay, first of all, when we these are some of the steps. Okay, again the steps when we define, TOGAF again is a descriptive. So these steps, what is defined here, you can able to customize depending on your company, size of the project, the scope of the project, at the same time what kind of frameworks a company is using, your culture. Okay, first of all, you must establish the project, because the moment you establish a project, what comes into your mind? Come on, guys. The moment we establish a project, what comes into your mind? Scope. Very good. Scope, requirements, and at the same time, we got a deadline. See, EA practice exists as long as the company exists, but a project has got a start date and an end date is a must. Every project has got a start date and an end date. So the moment we establish EA practice, a project in vision, in phase A, the vision phase, the architecture vision, we're going to establish a project. So the project means we have some kind of a budget. That's what you must get into the mind. And we identify the key stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? So again, think of a university having some 30,000-40,000 students. There'll be at least some 3,000-4,000 staff. So again, you cannot able to take the requirements of everyone. We take only the key stakeholders. Who will be affected or who is driving this? What are their concerns and what is their business requirement? Then, again, at the earlier stage I told you, we're going to confirm and elaborate the business goals, business drivers and constraints. So any business goals or business drivers must be connected back to the organizational goals or organizational drivers if it is there. Okay. Then the capabilities we need to evaluate. See what kind of capabilities currently the business is having and what do they expect. Then, for a company, suddenly, you think of COVID now. COVID, suddenly the staff are able to work from the home. Think post-COVID, pre-COVID, if the same kind of environment you want to create and tell the staff to work from the home, nobody would agree for that. Might be they'll spend X amount of money just for training and doing a proof like some pilot projects, blah blah, that gone for months and years. So that's the reason what I want to say is whenever you come out with a state of like a new kind of a capability, again, what kind of any capabilities moving forward, and it's all technology driven, like self-service, or might be like some kind of an automation, like an RPA project. So you must look at the company's readiness. Are they ready for it? I just tell you a small case study here. One of my friend was involved in a project for a mining industry. So they had money, they bought state-of-the-art systems, they had all this chatting systems and all. So it was a big failure. I'm talking about 4 years back, 4 or 5 years back. So then they made evaluation. Then what happened is, because people working in the mining industry, the mindset is different. If they want to talk to a buddy, they'll just go have a coffee or beer, they'll communicate. Nobody want to send SMS and talk to them. So the message here is, when you look at the companies, you must try to see what is the capability, the company plus the staff. Are they able to make use of the systems we're going to provide them? Okay. Then, based on the business transformation readiness assessment, then you must look at the scope. So that will define the scope. So again, please remember, the scope comes in two ways. One scope can be defining, okay, the future capability. This is what we expect. In that scope, it will be including even the staff need to be trained or retrained. Or might be looking at the staff, we say, okay, no, this staff are not ready for it. Let us minimize the scope. So the scope purely depends on the business transformation, the readiness assessment, and from there, what again here you're going to give back the feedback to the management or the sponsor. So based on that, we're going to define the scope. Then, can anyone remember where we define the principles? See, in the last class, we can remember we define the principles in phase P, the preliminary phase. So preliminary phase, when you define the principles, that was a high level. Only when you come into the phase A, then we know exactly that is it relevant or not relevant. As I told you earlier, by the time you come from phase A, phase P to phase A, it can be weeks, months, or years. So you must really look back and see what are the principles which has been defined. Is it really relevant, or we need to update or abandon it? Okay. Then we're going to develop the vision. What is the future? What is the expectation? So I showed you some of the requirements in a high level. So what can be done? All cannot be given at one shot. Some can be done partially. Some can be done depending on the type of the budget, scope, and the timeline. Then, very important thing, what happens? Many companies, what was happening is that they're not able to identify the metrics and the KPIs of the EA practice. Because especially, let me take an example. If I able to define in a vision statement, we are going for a state-of-the-art ERP system. The ERP system, by the time you procure a system, implement it, customize it, and the business gets the value of it, it may take about 5 to 10 years in real time, at least minimum 5 years. Do you know anyone like how much time it took for Commonwealth Bank to upgrade their core systems? It took about 3.5 years. So many times the people who define that might not be there. So one of the key thing is you must redefine the KPIs, and the KPIs must be validated back when you come into phase G. Okay. Then any kind of a business, there is a risk. So identify the transformation risk. Again, TOGAF does not talk about the risk in a very high level. What TOGAF says is identify the risk and see what is the residual risk. What TOGAF says is follow whatever the project management standards they're following, adapt the risk factors from the project management perspective. Project management generally gives a very elaboration of the risk management. Then, after all this, then come out with the statement of architectural work. Say only after the risk you can able to evaluate, what will be the cost, what the additional buffer you need to take care. It can be in terms of budget, it can be in terms of skills, in terms of training, in terms of uncertainty too. So all this will be taken into consideration. Then you're going to come out with the statement of architectural work. Please remember, there is a budget here, very high level. Okay, all are you okay till now? I'm not seeing any questions. Okay, that's great. Okay, let me a little bit drill down for identify the stakeholders' concern and business requirement. This step, little bit I want to elaborate. That's all. So why I want to elaborate here is, so one of the main thing is in this particular step, we're going to identify the vision components. So why the vision components means, I showed you the key capabilities or the aspirational view what we expect. The whole capability cannot be given at one shot. It can come in stages. So at every stage, we need to have some kind of a KPIs. So with the key stakeholders, you can able to say, might be having eye tracking in the first, what I can release. Might be in the second release, you'll be having the control of the user system. Might be the third release, we can able to monitor the complete student, his environment, what is he doing. So it may come with some few stages. So this vision document component is going to help us. Then the scope boundaries. See, sometimes you may say like the scope boundaries, like what is the scope we need to have at a certain stage. It can be a stage for a few years, or might be at each stage. This is the boundary, the scope. Then one of the key thing with this stakeholders when you identify them, first of all, we identify the concerns. And again, as you can see here, an organization can be having different departments. When you have got different departments, and especially with the global village, what we are having now, global virtual village, you can be having your back office processing somewhere in other countries, or might be in other part of Australia to cut the cost. So on all that aspects, you must try to look at their concerns, their issues across the enterprise, plus the cultural factors. And especially nowadays, a lot of universities, they got overseas campuses. And once the way we are operating now in the future, so might be the campus might be required only for admission purpose. And at the same time, the delivery can be done any part of the world, anywhere. At the same time, one more factor comes in, just for you to have a thought process. See, the moment if you can able to delivery the course to any part of the world, then I can able to hire a lecturer instead of in Australia, I can hire in somewhere else also. As long as they got the required credentials and required qualification, they can come from anywhere. So that can bring the cost of the university a lot, the operational cost. So this all will comes into consideration when you try to look at the scope as well as the other concerns as stakeholders. Any questions till now? Okay, I got a question here from Mike. What Mike is asking is there a sample template available for vision document? Yes. Okay, guys, might be after this break or next class I'll show you. TOGAF is a methodology. For every phase, they're given what all the documents is required as an input as well as an output. At the same time, TOGAF has very well-defined repository, the content framework they have got. In the content framework, they define what kind of artifacts is required, what kind of catalogs is required, what kind of models are required. They're very well defined. But the problem is we need to customize it. Just the business. Okay, once you come after the break, I'll show you the business, the document of the what is that raw document and SAW document. I'll show you the templates. What is available? So now we got the concept right. So when you look at this one, the system of interest is having a number of systems together, and the stakeholders viewpoint. Please remember, view and viewpoint is different. View is nothing but a consolidated view of all the viewpoints makes one view. You got the point, guys? See, this one took me a while to understand. View and viewpoints are different. View is a consolidated view of every viewpoint, but the viewpoint is specific to one user. Okay, let me take the viewpoint from now. See, the viewpoint of TOGAF, I'm looking from my aspect is how to convey my message to you. That is my viewpoint. From your aspect, you're thinking how we can able to grasp the information, what kind of way you want to grasp it. So in overall, our ultimate goal is the view is we are exchanging the information or building the thought process. Let me take one more example. Let us look at a website. When the website, if we look at the website, we have few views. When a student comes, he's interested only from his angle, how we can able to enroll for a degree course. If a staff comes in, he'll be looking at how we can able to see who has actively participating in debates or classrooms. He'll be looking at that. If you look at the financial aspect, they'll be looking at if I log into my portal, I must be able to see how many students are admitted, how much revenue we got in the last 3 months or 6 months. So the same screen, what we see, but it has got various number of viewpoints. So the view is the same. So the view is consolidated. Viewpoint is specific to each user. Just this concept, if you get 3 marks in the foundation exam. The difference between view and viewpoints. Okay, I got one more question from Mike here. Mike is asking, can Archimate generate this? See, one of the key thing I want to say, might be next class I will show you. Archimate is nothing but a modeling language to represent all the documents, all the concepts what we're discussing here. So said that it does not, instead of having a documentation, it gives more of a visual representation. That's all. Okay, before I go for the break, let us understand how many of you come across value chain and value stream. I'm just curious. I want to explain this concept because, okay, I got one. Mega has come. Anyone else? Let us take a simple example. Say value chain. What the value chain means? It has got, like, we think of yourself. You came in for this course. When you came in this for this course, your concept of enterprise architecture was not clear. And once you leave this course, your concept became much more clearer. Okay. Okay, I'll come back. So what I want to say is, so the input is students, the output is students. In between, we have some kind of churning. Churning means, example, you're coming for online course. Might be I uploaded some kind of e-learning content, you're looking at it. Might be I'm going to give you some kind of assignments, you're going to work on it. And you'll be having some kind of, what I can say is modeling, you'll be doing that one. So doing all this aspect, finally you may take an exam. So as an output, you'll be a qualified TOGAF professional. We think in that way. So to support this, I need some additional infrastructure. One is, example, students who came into the class, I did some kind of a marketing campaign. Then I use some kind of, what I can say is media to convey my message, like conducting the online course. Then I need some kind of people to help me, the HR, to monitor, to procure, to follow up. Then again, we have some kind of firm infrastructure. It can be our regular internet, or mobile phone, or office infrastructure. One example. Let me take one more example. You think all of you eaten bread, right? So we just procure the wheat. The output is the bread. So in between, what's happening is, for especially if you're thinking of manufacturing a bread, we're able to distribute like Abbott's bread and all, it's a massive industry. They must be having some kind of a mechanism to procure the wheat, some kind of mechanism to churn the wheat and make into bread, and distribute your bread to the different part of supermarkets. Then for that, you need to have some kind of a marketing and sales to support, plus a service. So this one we call as the core. Then the supporting is procurement. So procurement means they can be having a process to qualify what is the best wheat, whatever it is. Some kind of technology to churn the wheat into a powder, or some kind of putting a yeast, making it into bread. Human resource to manage. This is also supporting for the main thing. The firm infrastructure, the machineries, all the things will come. So this is a value chain. Again, in the value chain, each one is called a value stream, the verticals, value stream, value stream, value stream. So inbound logistics, it can be a value stream. See, some companies, the same wheat they procure, they may pay $10. Some may pay only $5 for the same thing. So they got a very good value stream here. Operations. So some companies may spend X amount of money for the operations, and some companies may spend less. So again, this is a value stream. So a value chain consists of n number of value streams. Especially when you go and look into business architecture, you must be having this kind of a concept into the mind. What is the value chain of the enterprise? And what are the value streams? So there you're going to look at what are the business processes, and each value stream can be streamlined. And what is the data in each value stream? And each value stream can work independently. All of you got the concept? Well, one more last concept before we take a break. A patient of COVID infected goes to a hospital. He gets all the treatment. He comes back as cured. So that's a value chain. in between, you know, like how he's been treated, what kind of treatment he gives, and how, like where all the beds, I mean, like where he is admitted, and what are the wards will be there. To support him, there'll be some kind of mechanism. Might be like how the patient is taken from A to B, and what kind of like how how he's monitored. So for the patient, irrespective of the patient, they're going to monitor the patient, and what kind of human resource there to see, like when he came in, what is the cost factor, if you want to bill him or not to bill him. The infrastructure can be the hospital beds, the emergency wards, all can come under infrastructure. You guys got the concept? See, value chain is a very big concept. It came from Michael Porter. He is the one who really streamlined this. And anytime when we start any kind of EA practice, this is where we start the conversation. Take a bank. You go and put the money into your bank. The bank will give you interest come this one. But don't think of investment, share investment. So you put your money into share, you may get plus or you may get minus. Okay, what we do is we take a 10 minutes break. We come back, we discuss, once you're back, we discuss B, C, and D phase.